All right, today I'm just going to kind of show you real quick the Curlin pump and kind of what basic startup is, kind of stringing the pump, and just kind of basic overall operation. So the first thing you see here on our pump, it's pretty small, pretty simple. The on and off switch is up here on the left. No or change, yes and enter. Options help, run or pause, and then prime or bolus. Those are the main keys that you'll need to know for the pump and running the pump in the home. The silence button is to silence an alarm, such as if it's beeping and it won't stop beeping. You can just press silence. It'll mute it for 2 minutes. So I also have some tubing here. The tubing is not the exact tubing that you'll get in the home. However, it's very, very similar. Actually, it is the exact tubing. So what I want to show you is there's two pieces to this tubing. There is the regular tubing itself, and then there's the vented spike adapter, which I talked to you guys about on the phone. So this piece right here is the vented spike adapter. Typically, it's got a cap down here that's already on it, and then it's also got a spike cover that's right here. This is the vented spike adapter. Make sure you always find that when you are giving these home infusions, because if you don't have that on the tubing itself, the pump will not run correctly. Then we also have the Curlin tubing itself. So the Curlin tubing, it's got the little piece that goes in the pump, of course the blue end and the yellow end. On the yellow end, there will always be a little piece up top here. Up top here, it'll be a little round piece. When you take it out of the package, always make sure you rip that piece off. I don't have it with me because I've already used it, but it's just a little manufacturing piece. You'll want to take that off. It just twists off and you can throw it away. So from there, we have the normal tubing with the clamp, and then up here it's got the basic spike, the basic plastic spike that we always get with our Curlin tubing. So when we're infusing it directly out of the glass vials, what we want to make sure to do is add this vented spike adapter. It's got the vent right here. You don't need to pull it off or do anything with it. All it does is it attaches directly onto our tubing. And now you have the spike that has spiked basically another spike. So this is the spike that will go into the vial. This is the vent that now allows the vent to vent correctly out of that glass vial. So make sure you have that attached. From there, it'll just spike directly onto that vial and we can hang the vial. So stringing the tubing and the pump. I never turn the pump on until I have the tubing in it, just because the pump's gonna alarm and scream at you. So to open the pump, up top here, you'll lift and it just comes right back at you. So to open. So this is open pump. Down here, you'll see there's a little slit right here. Make sure the tubing is always brought around this side and not the back side. If you bring the tubing around this side and you close it, it's gonna kink it off. So make sure you bring it into this side. Up top here, inside the pump, it's kind of hard to see, but you'll see a yellow arrow and you'll see a blue arrow. The tubing itself has got a blue and a yellow piece. The yellow piece fits just kind of how it looks, directly right into that yellow piece. So the big end goes down and this tubing comes directly across the top, and then the blue piece sets right into the blue piece over here. So then that goes in, and always make sure you bring the tubing around this side, and then we can just close it and then you'll lock it. There we go. So now the tubing is in the pump. Basically ready to go. From there, I typically pop the top off the vial and I'll spike the vial directly on the tabletop and then I'll hang it. So starting up the pump is typically pre-programmed from the pharmacy. So to turn it on, you'll press the on key and it'll do its startup. This is a 4,000. You may see a 6,000. It's gonna have a bigger screen, but it's all exactly the same. This will tell you your battery power and perform routine maintenance. I haven't had mine routinely maintenance in over probably a year, so it's gonna give me that. And now it's giving you two options, program or biomed setup. Biomed is specifically only for pharmacy staff, pharmacy technicians to maintenance the pump and make sure it's, you know, accurately giving what it's supposed to be giving. So we'll never click biomed. You'll always want to be on program and then enter or yes. So we'll press enter or yes, and now it's going to ask you if you want to repeat RX or new program. New program is if you're ever going to be programming it yourself for a different rate. But for now, we're just going to do repeat program. Repeat RX is what the pharmacy has set the pump for that patient-specific infusion. They've already gone through the titrations and set everything up. So we will repeat RX. Continuous or variable. Variable should be highlighted, and we always want to make sure we run it in variable mode. Variable mode gives us the opportunity to increase the titrations at a various speed, such as continuous is going to let us run continuously one rate the entire infusion. Variable will let us do multiple rates at multiple speeds for different time increments. So always click variable. It's going to go through units, mils, delay, off, and then it's going to go through doses. You see mine has 3 doses. The first dose is 15 mils an hour for 30 minutes. The second dose is 30 mils an hour for 30 minutes. And then the third dose is 120 mils an hour, you know, for whatever duration's left. So it's going to run through all that real quick. Press run to start, no to review, options or prime. If you press no, you can review that whole program yourself. If you want to look at it again real quick, just rewind the video and go back to it. But that's what's going to run through the pharmacy's program for that patient. Now you're basically at the run screen. Press run to start, no to review, or options or prime. Down here on the right, you'll see prime bolus. This is where I typically prime. I don't like to prime my tubing by gravity because the Curlin tubing is very difficult to prime by gravity. On top of that, IG is very thick. And it's very difficult to prime by gravity. So typically what I do is when I'm ready to go or getting ready to set up the patient, I'll prime it right now. So press prime, and it's gonna say disconnect patient, release clamps, and hold the prime key. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna have your vial hung, and you're gonna hold the prime key. And it's gonna tell you that it's priming. And you can see fluid coming through. Of course, I don't have it hooked up to water right now. Once the fluid hits the end, you can let off the prime key and it will say press prime to continue or yes to exit. If the tubing is primed and you got IG dripping out the end, you'll press yes. And what that will do, that will take you directly back to that run screen. So from here, we're pretty much ready to go. Of course, you want to make sure you have the IV accessed. It's patent before, of course, getting all this ready. So now that you've already had the IV established, we've flushed it, it's good to go. We set up the tubing, we set up the pump, we set up the IG. Now we just hook it up to the patient and press run. From there, it's gonna automatically start its program, it's gonna automatically start running, and it should titrate automatically for you. So from there, that's kind of the basic of setup and getting the pump going to where you need it to go. I will run through a quick program real quick as well, so you can see me changing the program. So that way, if you ever need to slow it or run into issues, I can kind of guide you through that as well. So thank you, bye-bye.